On this episode of Inside Engineering, we take a deep dive with Natural Resources Manager Pete Stafford from our Raleigh office into an exciting seagrass relocation project and some of the innovative technologies Pete and his team have used on the project. And we also talk about all the people that Pete has saved in his life. Inside Engineering starts right now. Inside Engineering, untold stories and fascinating people from the world of civil engineering. This is episode 17, recorded in January 2020. Seagrass Relocation and Saving Lives with Pete Stafford. Inside Engineering is an RK&K podcast. Learn more at rkk.com/podcast. And welcome back to another episode of Inside Engineering. I am excited. I'm always excited about our guests, frankly. But today I'm excited to have with us here in the studio, Mr. Pete Stafford. Pete, welcome.
Howdy, Tim. How's it going?
It is going well. Thanks for being here. Pete is a natural resources manager in our Raleigh office. Thank you for making the trek up here today. It was a nice flight.
Yeah. Uneventful, which I appreciate.
Those are always the best kind of flights. Well, Pete, like I said, you're a natural resources manager. You work out of our Raleigh office, and you do a lot of stuff. I see pictures of you and video of you doing stuff all the time in the field that I think is particularly cool. You're often, hip deep in water somewhere. But why don't you walk us through what you do in general and maybe some of the fun things that you enjoy doing specifically?
Sure. So I'm one of the managers of the Raleigh Natural Resources team, and we've been fortunate enough over the past couple of years to utilize some new tech and some in-house expertise to pull off some very unique projects for our clients. And some of the pictures and things that you see are a result of those very unique projects. And we've, myself and our team in Raleigh has been very fortunate enough to be a part of.
What we're going to get into one of those projects, and this is a project in which we are relocating seagrass.
Yes.
So this is going to be me butchering what this project sounds like, but seagrass sounds like grass that grows in the sea. So am I on point so
That's
far?
it.
Okay, and we're relocating it. We're moving the seagrass to another location.
Right. So
please tell me about this because I need to know why everything about it.
No, that's a good one. So as a scientist, I geek out on this, so it's all good. So seagrass is a lot of people refer to it as SAV, so submerged aquatic vegetation. So it is we'll call it a grass that has its life underwater. Mm-hmm. It is a protected species, so it's regulated by law.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so when we have clients that want to have a construction project where they impact these species, there's 3 seagrass species in North Carolina. We have to account for that in the permitting process with mitigation for seagrass. So for projects in general that are in the water and in seagrass habitat, if you offset the mitigation, if you move that grass, you can offset the mitigation cost, and you can get a credit for that. So the idea was we're going to build this project in the water. It's on one of the largest contiguous seagrass beds in the United States outside of Florida.
And this is a bridge that's being built. Am I correct? Okay.
Yes. And so how do we lessen the environmental effect of it? Mm-hmm. So we thought about it. The team had this proposal. So we're going to take not all of the seagrass in the project study area, but just the seagrass that's going to be permanently impacted. So think where something is installed on the seafloor.
Got it.
We're going to take the grass out of that footprint and we're going to move it so that it's not, there is some mortality associated with moving it, but it's not 100% mortality. So we can offset the cost of that mitigation value by moving the live grass. So it had not been done on this scale before in North Carolina. There was a lot of very unique challenges. The first big challenge was the place that everyone had chosen to move it to was 7 miles away from the harvest location.
Oh, interesting. So does that present just a logistical mortality challenge of keeping it alive during that? Sorry, I don't want to jump in on you.
No, go ahead. So a lot of challenges. So first of all, this is an organism living underwater. So when you take it above water, it dies
quickly.
Yeah, within X amount of time. You can't leave it out of water for hours or it's dead.
Right. Okay.
So we have to harvest this, the seagrass, contain it in a way that we can transport it, move it 7 miles, and then replant it without it dying. And it's a species that lives underwater. So there were some very technical issues we had to work through to pull this off. And we didn't move. This was for a portion of the project. The other portion we moved on site, just moved it out of the way of the alignment, out of the way of hazard, and replanted it. So the big issue was how to keep it alive. And we, with the help of a subcontractor, we custom designed our own tooling to pull this off.
Okay.
So what we did was, and I'm gonna skip a step, after we've harvested the grass and now we've got to get it to the donation site. We put it in a boat. Each seagrass sod or unit was in a bread basket. So this is high tech now. High tech.
You do what works, right?
Yeah. So we have these stackable bread baskets, just like you see in the Merita bread truck. So we have the seagrass organized and stacked in these baskets, and they're stacked on top of each other. They're moved. They're on site. They're kept underwater. They're on the bottom.
Uh-huh.
When we go to move them, we put them in the boat to keep the grass alive from point A to point B, 7 miles away. We designed and built a watering system.
Mm-hmm.
So what this watering system did was it used the boat's potential energy. So we have, imagine a pipe network, and the portion of pipe that's over the side of the boat is cut at a 45-degree angle, so that when you drive forward, the force of the boat forces water into the intake of the pipe. The pipe system comes up and comes over the bread baskets, and it's forcing water over the stacked bread baskets. So it's like a cascading effect.
Uh-huh.
So the whole time you're moving the boat, it keeps the seagrass saturated the entire time you're moving.
That's clever.
Yeah. So it worked.
That's the real big question.
Yeah. So amazingly, it worked. I tested it before like game day. So I was aware of its little nuances. So it worked. And this was a cycle. So we would get grass to the donation site. We would get it out of the boat into the water, and then their divers would take over and start pulling the grass out and planting it.
Okay. And at this point, like, how deep is the water where you're harvesting from and donating to?
All right. So, I'm gonna say the project was divided into, we call that the diving section, which is chest deep. You can't, even though it's not over your head, our subcontractor used a dive crew to go down and harvest grass off the seafloor. And we used snorkeling equipment to harvest it to plant it, because at the planting site, you're in knee deep of water.
Oh, okay.
So you just kind of floated like this, like you would in a pool.
Manipulate it.
Yeah, and just grab a piece out of the bread basket, put it in place, and you would take some metal pins and pin the grass side in. And then over time, the metal would rust and disintegrate.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
and then by then it's taken root.
Yeah, the rhizomes are in, and it's taken off. And so amazingly, we wanted to plant the harvested material in a place where we could track it. So
track the success of the move. Ah, okay.
Because the first thing everybody wants to know is, did it work? And so amazingly enough, it did. The grass grew. It worked. It worked great, actually. There was some mortality. Some of the areas didn't grow quite as much, but the times we've checked on it since, it's very positive results. And other than saying it worked, that's.
How big of an effort was it in terms of manpower?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked, because this was a complex deal. We had, I think there was 8 from the RK&K Raleigh office. We had Tom Pride from the Tampa office come up. We had a college intern. Joshua Tutt, East Carolina University, is an intern in the Raleigh office, and he was an incredible member of this team to help pull this off. Then our subcontractor was the dive team part of this, and they had 6, I think, there.
Wow, so that's 15 right there?
Yeah. So and then we had other people coming in and out of the equation to observe and look and see how this was going. And we used a system of boats on site. So we would have the dive team had a dedicated boat. The team that was prepping the bread baskets for transport was on a dedicated boat. It was just a complex, like, assembly line type process out there in the water. And leading up to these events, to kind of design this process and then pull it off, there were some sleepless nights involved, I assure you.
Sure.
I assure you. So at the end of that process, it took the diving week. We were only in the water with the divers for 1 week. The rest of the time we were doing this with a combination of both manual and mechanical harvesting techniques. And it was just a unique experience all the way around.
What are some other technologies that we used on this project to either identify the seagrass or to monitor it? I think there's some other. Have we done anything else that was cool?
Yeah.
Did we do anything? I think we did some stuff with drones, and that's a lot of it. Or
so one other piece of equipment. So when you go to do this, it's not like you can go to the Seagrass store and buy the equipment you need.
They don't have the Seagrass store?
No.
Okay.
So all of our equipment was designed and fabricated in the most technologically advanced lab on the East Coast. A lot of people refer to it as my garage.
As your garage. Pete Stafford's garage.
Yeah. So our subcontractor did an outstanding job. He came up, the team lead, he came up 3 days in advance, and he and I, we had sketched this stuff. We had thought about it, and we brought it to life in my garage. And not only that, but the systems that we built and everything that we did to pull this off had to be constructed in the sense that it had to be modular. So each day we rented boats. We couldn't leave our equipment on the boats overnight.
Right.
So we had to install things and break them down every day.
Right.
And
very portable.
One piece of technology that was cool for this that we utilized was a pump system to harvest the seagrass. So imagine this. So imagine we have a template, which is again a very high-tech PVC ring, and we would take this ring and put it over. We would take a high accuracy survey grade GPS GNSS and find the location that we needed that we're going to harvest from the design plans. Put the template over it. So now we got to get the grass out of there. So we designed a jet system, a pump jet system that essentially, just like a kid in the yard growing up, you have the water hose and you put your thumb over and it increases the PSI.
Right.
And you can cut into, so we designed we took marine pumps, designed them with 12-volt batteries, marine batteries, and rigged them in sequence so that we could get enough, not only pressure, but enough volume to use that as an instrument
A water jet
cut
out.
to cut out the seagrass from your template. So that was one unique, cool piece of equipment. We designed it, we built it, we installed it on the boat.
Specifically for this task.
Specifically for that job. That stuff has sat in my garage since, collecting dust.
You don't have any other uses for a seagrass template? No?
I'm waiting for the next one.
That's right. No, yeah, it's ready to go.
Yeah. So, yes, and I'm glad you brought up drones. That's another key piece of this that we utilize, and not only locating these areas, but also monitoring. So we're using drones to monitor this area, both before and after construction, and we're going to do a study on how the bridge project has the association of the bridge project with the surrounding seagrass communities. So we're going to correlate that and see how that stuff works out. And again, that's to figure out how to utilize drones looking through water in a marine environment. So a technical kind of
a technical challenge.
Yeah, yeah. It was challenging to kind of figure out. You just don't open the book and figure out, here's how you do it. It doesn't exist. So we had to learn it. We had to develop that tech.
And so now we can just fly over an area and sort of easily identify where the seagrass is and make decisions without having to get out in boats and kind of look for it. It's a much more efficient.
Right. So, and it actually worked very well when you could fly over it now and see the little template places all over where we removed grass.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it was just a unique project altogether. And like I said, very fortunate to have participated in it. And the team back in Raleigh did it absolutely phenomenal. I'm on this microphone. I've been in the videos you talked about as the success of our team. And so a huge credit to the team back in Raleigh. It's just been amazing to work with those guys and girls, and it's just been an incredible success story with this project.
I think for me, that's one of the more exciting things that I get to hear about, and everyone watching or listening gets to hear about too, is the consistent theme of teamwork on projects across offices.
Oh yeah.
There's not this competition between offices. There's not these, separate silos of business operations. It really is like a full team effort across everywhere.
Yeah. It's, I needed some extra help. I called Tom Pride down in Florida, and I said, hey, can you help us? He was on a plane and he was there. Conversely here with, Tom Earp, hey Tom, we had this tech issue with the drone. What are your thoughts on that? He gave us his input, and we moved the ball down the field afterwards.
Yeah, and Tom Earp was a guest. I think it was episode 2 that he was on with us talking about. He's our innovative technologies manager. So yeah, he's involved in a lot of this stuff.
Oh yeah. So it's across the, right there from Baltimore to Tampa. We were reaching across the table to other offices, and that's just how this team is. The RK&K is a whole team. That's how we are.
Sure. What, in regards to this project in particular, is there anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to cover?
This project was, I'm gonna call it a gateway project. The successes of pulling this off in a timely manner, so that the client can get the permit and build their project, was a gateway into additional very unique things. So the opportunity itself was amazing, and what it led us into is another series of unique projects and water related activities for the Raleigh team as well. So it started here, and the story's not over yet. We're still building off of this one.
That's exciting. To do something really innovative and cool like this, and then see it lead to other opportunities.
Yeah. So the kid back in 2001 that wanted to be a pro bass fisherman, he's making his living on the water still, but he's just not a pro fisherman.
And that's okay. I imagine you still love to fish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we back up a little bit, and can you talk a bit about how you got to where you are in your career of being a manager and doing what you do?
Would love to. So in August 1st, 2001, this is going to be a funny story, by the way.
Okay, good.
All right, so I was trying to develop a career as a professional bass fisherman.
Interesting.
Yes. So I was a country boy, Eastern North Carolina, and that was my goal in life, and I went for it, and it didn't work out. So as my mom would say, bless his heart, it did not work out. And I'd been at that point, I had completed my degree at University of North Carolina at Wilmington, and my father walks in the room and says, "Son, it's time for you to enter the workforce. This trial's failed. Let's make it happen here." So I found an ad on a website in 2001 for RK&K in Raleigh, and looking for entry level natural resources biologist. And there was another ad right beside it, and it said it was something beyond my capabilities. It was like office regional manager or something like this. So I said, you know what? I'm going for the regional. I'm going for the big one. Right.
Uh-huh.
So I did. And a week later, I got a phone call, and I was like, got to be kidding me. So the manager at the time that hired me, he called me laughing, and he said, "Son, you do not qualify for this regional manager position, but I've got an entry level position right here that I think you'd be a perfect fit for. So why don't you come in and talk to us?" And I did. And August 1st, 2001 was my start date. And almost 20 years later, my career has been centered at RK&K. I'm a fan. I love the buffalo. And yeah, here I am today.
For those who don't know, the buffalo is sort of our internal mascot that we rally around. We have a saying to protect the buffalo, and that sort of take care of the firm and do what's right and be ethical. And that is that is a wild kind of thing. So 2 job posts right next to each other. You went for the big one, got the other one, and it's worked out pretty well. What have you? I mean, so you've grown. You started in this entry level position.
Yes.
Have there been any moments of that have helped you along the way, or like these like key moments or key advice that's been given to you?
There has been. And a couple of things has been observing managers in Raleigh and picking up on good habits. Tommy Peacock and Keith Skinner left a big impression on me, and I've harvested some of their very good qualities in the way that they see and go about their daily business. I've absorbed into my routine. So looking into those that are successful has been a key, I think. Another reason I would say is our team. I sit here as a member of a team, and without our team back in Raleigh, I may still be a entry-level biologist delineating wetlands in Eastern North Carolina.
What are some of those attributes you mentioned that Keith and Tommy that you've sort of garnered from them? What for people listening who might be moving up in their career as well? Do you have some advice you can pass on to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So leadership qualities are the things that I observed the most about them. How to handle situations, how to communicate with people, in especially in times when there could be a rough edge to the communication that needs to happen. Patience, perseverance. These are some of the qualities I think really stand out that I've picked up on and taken to heart.
Is there anything you wish you had known earlier on in your career?
Yes, I wish I had been more aggressive in pursuits of not only my career, but within pursuits to go after different jobs, different work, explore different opportunities. RK&K is an exceptional company, especially when you look at from the aspect of we will support your career. We will do what it takes to help you succeed. it's the door is wide open. You have the support, and I wish I had fully taken that in sooner, and so that would be it.
We hear that kind of frequently, is embrace opportunities earlier on, and don't be afraid to try out different stuff.
Yeah.
That rings true. That's good. All right, I'm gonna go a little, not quite a full segue here, but this, okay. I just remembered something that I wanted to ask you about all your time on the water.
Okay.
Because you spend a lot of time on the water.
Indeed.
And you see some crazy things that happen out on the water because you're out there so much.
Yeah.
You've been around and available to help some people out on the water over your time. I think the count is 8 or 9.
It's 9.
9 people that you have rescued.
Yep.
Just tell us about some of this here, and that's amazing to me.
Yeah, and granted, I'm gonna start this one off with, I don't know how I find myself in these situations.
You're in the right place at the right time.
I'm telling you,
you have the knowledge to help out.
I'm gonna give the Cliff Notes version, but each one has a more in depth story with it.
Sure. Yeah, Cliff Notes version is good.
Okay, so all right, 1, 2, 3, and 4 were all on the same boat. So in 2003, I was in Morehead City, North Carolina, and we had been out in the boat, for 4th of July, and we were coming back in for the day when we saw this little Hobie Cat sailboat going out for the day. We were coming in because it was rough, and I was looking at this little sailboat, and I was like, man, they're going into a bad spot. And I saw the mast of the sailboat go up on a crest of a wave, and it went down. I was waiting for it to come back up, but it didn't. So we spun around and went over there, and sure enough, there was a mother, a father, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and a boxer, a dog, in the water with their sailboat at capsize.
Oh man. I have 3 young kids, and that is just like,
so no life jackets.
Oh my God.
So the father was trying to put the life jacket on the 2-year-old when we got there. The 2-year-old had taken on too much seawater, and he was going into shock. So we got him in the boat first. Then we got the 5-year-old, and worked our way up the line. The boxer dog was the last one, and he was happy. He was just out there swimming around, taking waves over the face. He was cool. In fact, we called him in the boat. He just climbed right up the ladder and got in. But the little 2-year-old ended up in shock, turned white, pupils dilated. He was in bad shape. The Coast Guard cutter arrived at that time and took the family, and I think the 2-year-old ended up getting airlifted to a local medical center, but he made it. He made it. He's fine.
Good. I have chills right now.
So that was 1 through 4. So the very next year, so it's a theme with me. So 4 years on the 4th of July, 4 years in a row, 4th of July, I had incidences. So the very next year, so 2004, we were, if anybody's familiar with Bogue Island in North Carolina, we were in that area. I was with some friends, and a friend's dad docked his boat, and we went up on the island to eat sandwiches and hang out. Well, when he threw his anchor out, the tide was low. The tide came in, and he decided he needed to go move the boat or whatever. Well, he couldn't get into the boat because the tide had increased the water level, and he couldn't just hop right into the boat. It was now up deep. It was chest level. He couldn't get into the boat. So while he was trying to wrestle himself into the boat, he fell and hit his head on the gunnel, knocked himself out, hit the water, and the tide just took him away. And I saw the palm of his hand, like he was doing cartwheels underwater. And I saw the palm of his hand just flash, one time behind the boat. And I took an angle, and I can't remember. I grabbed an ankle, a wrist. I grabbed a body part of some kind and got him. And I hate to use the word Baywatch, but in typical Baywatch style, I got him to the top and put my arm around his neck in life-saving mode, and went with the current, swimming with the current, and got him back closer. And when I was able to get back closer in, the rest of the family was there to help. and he's okay. He was scared, but he was okay. The very next year, had another incident.
This is unbelievable. I just can't.
Well,
it's like every year. Wow.
Yeah. So let me fast forward. So 7 and 8 were, it was in winter, and we were fishing near Topsail in North Carolina. And when in winter fish, you're fishing down that way in the winter. One of the common things that people do is they chase red drum. They school up out on the surf zone in the winter, but they get into the inlet shoals. And there's the dynamics of an inlet. You've got shoals and you've got little channels in between. Well, a lot of times red drum will get into the deeper sloughs in between the shoals. And if you can get there, it's good fishing in a lot of places. Well, a couple of guys really wanted to get there. It was really rough. They didn't have the vessel to do it, and they got themselves in trouble. And I couldn't get to them. It was too rough. It was just, I would have had a bad fate if I'd pursued them. So I facilitated Coast Guard and Seato, facilitated them into where the guys were, because you couldn't see them for all the whitewater in the inlet crashing. Wow. So I was the only person, I was the only one that knew their position. So I assisted in that methodology to get them out. And then number 9, this latest one, was during the Seagrass Relocation project. We were out working one day, and a younger gentleman, a teenager, approached us in a jet ski. And he wasn't frantic, but he was just like, "Hey guys, I need some help." And I'm like, so I didn't pay much attention. I'm like, well, he's not frantic. Like he
seems calm.
Yeah. What does he want? And then he said, my uncle fell off and he hurt his shoulder, and I don't know if he's going to make it. And I was like, what? What? I didn't take it serious at first. In fact, some of the other team members in Raleigh were like, "Hey, Pete." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh man, yep, I got you." So I followed him. I grabbed the boat and took off and followed him out into the Pamlico Sound with his jet ski. And sure enough, how that teenager on the jet ski made it back to his uncle, because his uncle was in, I would call it have you ever been in the pool and it's a little bit too deep for you just to stand there, so you had to toe tap to keep your head above water?
Yeah, it's exhausting.
So his uncle was in that situation in open water to Pamlico Sound by himself, and how we drove right to where that guy was at, well, only this much of his head sticking out of the water, I'll never know. So he was in a bad situation. It was really rough that day, and I couldn't get him in the boat. But what I did was I got us into a little bit shallower water, and I got him back onto the jet ski. And from there, they couldn't navigate back home. So the guy, when he fell off the jet ski, he damaged his, I don't know, in what way, but he basically, one of his arms was immobile. He couldn't use one of his arms, and he was in panic mode. And if you've ever approached anybody in the water that's panicking, it's got to be done properly, or they're going to damage you.
Take you with them. Right.
So we got him on the jet ski. I got him navigated back to their, where they came from, and that was number 9. So for the last 15 plus years,
you need to be out there all the time.
My wife's like, "Hey, what are we doing for 4th of July?" And I'm like, "Nothing." No. We are not doing anything, because if I'm around the water on the 4th of July, something's going to happen. Yeah.
Wow. Well, to everybody out there listening or watching, please be safe on the water.
Absolutely.
Man.
I hope that what I'm doing is building up credits for when it's my turn to be saved,
Absolutely. Jeez. Wow. Well, Pete, I think we've reached that point in the episode where it's time.
It's flown by.
It has. It's been good. I mean, I think we could talk for a while. You know what this means? We'll just have to have you back another time.
Yeah. Well, we can make that happen. Road trip.
I'll come to you.
Okay.
We'll bring inside engineering on the road, and but until then, it's time for this is where I need my drum roll. I need a drum roll sound. Your pick of the week.
Sure.
You're going to recommend something to us that you think we will all like, and
Yes.
we're going to go try it out.
So I'm going to go out of the box for this one.
I like that.
Yep. So I'm going to, and this is speculation, but you see where I'm going with it. So we're in a new decade. If you
Some would say that we're not. I think they're wrong.
Okay.
But go ahead.
I'm looking at it as a new decade. So if you look at the technology advances from where we were at in year 2000 to now, there was a lot that happened. So what I'm trying to do is look at what's going to happen from now into the next 10 years and how that affects our industry, and especially transportation and natural resources. So, and I went down this rabbit hole and looking. So my recommendation is that the company that we're familiar with, Tesla,
Mm-hmm.
is going to have a battery investor day coming up in February. They haven't announced it yet.
Really?
And they're supposed to announce a new battery technology. That's
Cool.
speculation. So my pick is to keep an eye on this.
Uh-huh.
And here's the reason why. We're entering into this new decade, and we're going to see an influx of EVs and technology, autopilot, self-driving cars, this kind of thing. It's here. I mean, it's here. There's some policy, there's some small tech things that need to happen to get us over the hump, but it's here. One key thing to getting us over that hump is battery technology. Once we enter to the new technology, like get over this hump of the newer battery technology that's coming, batteries will be able to charge twice as quick and last twice as long.
Longer range, longer life, faster charging.
That's
Yep.
right.
Yep.
And supposedly Tesla's going to announce this here in a couple weeks, and I think that's going to kick off the decade, and I think it's going to kick off a potential revolution in our industry as far as the way that people are involved in transportation. So, and kind of to put a twist in it is, so in late 1970s, a Nobel Women Prize chemist by the name of John B. Goodenough was 77 years old, well, in his late 70s, and he invented the technology that we call lithium-ion batteries.
Mm-hmm.
He invented that in the late 70s. It didn't catch on for many years. It took a long time for that tech to really come into our lives and be refined.
Yeah, right.
And the problem is scaling it. So scaling it into manufacturing and driving down manufacturing costs. So,
Which is what Tesla's been doing over the past few years.
right. So 2 years ago, John B. Goodenough, at the age of 90, I think he was 96 years old when this happened, won the Nobel Prize for chemistry for a new battery chemistry. Yep. So
Wow.
we're right on the cusp of some big tech advances coming, and I think in the next 10 years, technology will advance much faster than it did the previous 10. So my pick is, strange enough, battery technology. Keep an eye on it.
I like this.
Yeah.
This is a unique pick.
Yeah.
This is forward-looking technology, innovation.
Yeah. So
I like it.
yeah. So our drones can stay in there twice as long. And
Oh man, wouldn't that be great?
see, if you look into that, it has all these different like indirect effects for this new technology. So power grid storage. Imagine it's just, I think that one technology, once it's refined and scaled, that's my pick.
This is right down my alley. I like it. I like it. All right, Pete. Well, thanks so much for taking time out while you're up here to come in and do this.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is great. Thank you all for joining us. Inside Engineering comes out every Tuesday. You can check us out at our home on our website at rkk.com/podcast. We're also on all your favorite podcasting platforms where you can subscribe, like, rate, review, and do all the things that you do with a podcast. Thanks again, Pete. And we'll see you all next time on another episode of Inside Engineering.